Hello, my name is Scott Midgley. I'm the co-founder of Wellforce IT. We're a managed IT and cybersecurity firm working with professional services organizations across the DC metro area and central North Carolina, and law firms make up a big part of that practice. This video is a part of our series on Claude Cowork, and today we're taking into the specific work of running a law firm. Every new matter starts with fragments. An intake email, a phone call, voice memos dictated between meetings, conflict notes, fee and scope details. Before anything can move forward, someone has to turn all of that into a clean, accurate summary. That first pass can take a lot of time, and it has to be right. Miss a deadline, overlook a conflict, or mishandle a document issue, and the firm may lose the matter or face something worse. Today I want to show you how Claude Cowork can handle the first pass, keep the key details organized, and surface the issues you cannot afford to miss. If you watched our first video, this will be a quick refresher. Claude Cowork is a mode inside Claude Desktop that can read the files you give it, plan a multi-step task, and carry that task through on your machine. Regular Claude chat is a back and forth conversation. Cowork is built for you to work, and you can hand it off and review when the output is ready. For a law firm, that's the important distinction. You're not copying intake materials into a chat window one at a time. You're pointing Cowork at a folder of real files and asking it to return a usable work product. We covered the full setup in our first video, so I'll keep that quick. Cowork is not available on the web or mobile app, so you're going to need the Claude Desktop app, and that's available on Mac, Windows, or Linux, and you also need a paid Claude plan. Once you're in Claude Desktop, look for the mode selector, choose Cowork, which we see here, and you're ready to go. Now let me show you a scenario that I've built. This is for a fictional firm, Hartwell Bryce LLP, and a fictional prospective client, Sarah Chen, who reached out about a potential employment matter. In the last 24 hours, the firm has generated 4 separate artifacts: her intake email, the attorney's voice memo dictated after the call, the results of the conflicts check, and the attorney's fee and scope notes. Under normal circumstances, a paralegal is going to have to read all 4 of these and produce a matter intake summary before the engagement letter goes out, but I'm going to have Cowork do it. Let me go ahead and grab the prompt that we want to use for this. And I had this pre-written because no one wants to see me typing and messing up my typing. So here's our prompt. Read through everything in the input folder and produce a clean matter intake summary for the Chen file. Include client information, factual background, potential claims, deadlines, and open items. Flag anything that blocks engagement or needs partner review before we proceed. So now we'll hit this and start the task. Now we're going to start to see Claude working on things. And let's try to look and see what happens first here. Cowork lays out a plan before it does anything. It's going to read each file, then organize the output. For our purposes, that transparency matters, as this is client work, and I want to see what it intends to do before it does it. Also, while we're waiting for everything to happen here, I want you to notice up in the right-hand corner, there's a progress bar. This points us to the actual folder that's in use, as you can see with the folder icon, and this gives us the context, and it tells us that track the tools and the referenced files used in the task. And you'll see those listed out as Claude goes through. Now, see here, we've got some output in the progress. It's going to tell us that it read all the intake input files. It's now in the process of analyzing the claims, deadlines, and blockers. It'll move on to drafting a matter intake summary as a Word document, and you'll see after this we're going to go into a couple of the other settings, and I can show you some things that you can change there. If you use PDF or anything like that, you can make those changes, and then it'll end with number 4. It'll verify in the deadline math and the flags. So it's going through, it's now building the summary document. So let's give this a minute or two and we'll start to see that we have our output. And one of the things that I've noticed with a lot of the customers that I consult with on this is that they actually like to watch, in the beginning, they like to be able to watch how this is actually going, what it's taking, and the process it's going through. Because as Cowork works, it's going to show you what it's doing there, and they can see how it's going through the process, and they can see the system that it follows on there. And I think that's important for a lot of people to be able to get comfortable with that, before they use this the way Cowork is really intended, and where you really see the time savings is where you can set this in there and then go and work on other things while it works. All right, so now we're starting to get some outputs in here under the law firm demo. We're seeing this. There's 2 files created. We have a summary for Sarah Chen. It is writing the next piece. And as I said, you can change it if you want different outputs on this. Sometimes people just like to have it output into the regular function that exists inside of Cowork. I oftentimes use things to be output as a Word document. And the reason that I do that is that if I like that, I can just export it out and it's already a usable document. So that's the reason that I do that, but that's completely a choice that you would use and based on what you do at your own firm. Okay. We are just getting done here. And then we'll actually see this pop up on the screen when it's complete. And we'll be able to review, so just hit some of the highlights on that just to see that it makes sure and it hit the things that we needed it to hit as part of the summary. And here we go. The Chen Matter intake summary is beginning to open now. So we've got this titled out, and as you can see that it's listed out here, it lists the actual firm name, privileged and confidential, and then it lists this out. It tells us that we've got Sarah Chen and lists all that information at the top. Look what it caught. The conflicts checked flag hit. The Meridian Ventures LLC, which is a former client of the firm, well, they're a minority investor in Meridian Stack, Sarah Chen's former employer. That's exactly the kind of thing that's easy to miss when you're skimming under a deadline pressure. Cowork puts it at the top of the summary as a blocker, not buried in any kind of list. It also picked up the EEOC filing deadline math from a date mentioned in passing in the voice memo. It carried forward the note about not letting the client send documents through a regular email. It picked up the litigation hold reminder, all from the 4 unstructured files that we had, and in less than 5 minutes. Now what I'd like to do is take a look at a feature that I want to show you, and I'm going to call this out specifically for law firms. It's the global instructions. So if we click in here, hit our settings, and we click on Cowork, and here's the global instructions. You can give Claude standing rules that apply to every session here. In my case, like I had referenced while we were waiting for the summary to create, I use it for format preferences, but for a law firm, this is where you enforce your practice-specific guardrails. You could put in things like never include client identifying information in file names or task titles, always surface potential clients at the top of every summary like we did with this, never make legal judgments, only organize and flag. The good thing about this is those instructions apply to every session automatically. So after you put them in there, you're just setting them the one time. You don't need to go back and set them again unless you want to change them. Now let's address the confidentiality considerations that matter most when working with client information. When Cowork performs actions involving code, it runs those actions inside an isolated virtual machine that is separate from your operating system. Claude can only access the folders you explicitly connect to a session. It doesn't have unrestricted access to your computer, it doesn't see unrelated client folders, and it doesn't connect to your document management system unless you specifically provide that access. Cowork also includes a permission mode selector. For confidential matters, I usually suggest this to our clients before each action. In that mode, Cowork pauses and shows you what it intends to do before proceeding. It's a slower workflow, but it's appropriate trade-off when working with privileged client materials. Regardless of the selected mode, Cowork will always ask for confirmation before it permanently deletes any files. These controls don't replace a firm's obligations under Rule 1.6, but they do provide a meaningful technical foundation for meeting those obligations. That distinction is important because many AI tools do not offer the same level of operational control over what the system can access and what it can do. And that's the walkthrough. If you're going to try Cowork with anything client related, start with a low stakes use case, an internal memo, a research folder, or something that is not privileged, and get comfortable with how it behaves before you're pointed at real client work. If you've missed our earlier videos in the series, you can find them on our YouTube channel or at wellforce.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.